You want the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
You can't handle the truth!
Well, we're giving you the Michigan Sports Truth, the show that reveals facts, truth, research, and statistics and never messes around. With your hosts, Taylor Phillips, Ed Smith, Frank Vashner, and Buck Gino. We lay down the entire truth about everything regarding your Detroit and Michigan sports teams, no matter how uncomfortable they may be. No junk, no entertainment, no homerism, no coddling, no pop culture, no opinions, no shilling, and no fluff. Follow me, Taylor Phillips, on Twitter at DT2Phillips with 2 L's. Follow Ed Smith on Twitter at EdSmith313. Follow Frank Vashner at Frank_Vashner, VAJCNER. And follow Buck Gino on Twitter at BuckGino3rd. Also like our Facebook page, The Michigan Sports Truth, and join our Facebook group with the same name. The hosts of the Michigan Sports Truth podcast do not take any suggestions or criticism from any member of its audience on how it should be run. It is up to the host to decide what they want to cover. They also do not intend to be any amount of popular in any way, shape, form, or fashion. Additionally, the views of the audience, right or wrong, do not reflect the actual truth revealed on this program.
Episode 284 of the Weekend Review on Spreaker and SoundCloud and iHeartRadio is now in session. Taylor Phillips, Ed Smith. Ed got a lot of football to recap and preview, and got a lot of Tigers to discuss, a lot of Red Wings to discuss, and a lot of Pistons to discuss as well.
Yeah, it's definitely a loaded show on this front and on this end as well. I can't wait to delve into the details, the specifics. I'm really looking forward to the big game this past Saturday, but we can't ignore how good job our Lions did, but also on the topic of can't ignoring, we cannot ignore the unfortunate, tragic, and horrific events that took place in Las Vegas, Taylor.
No, there was a shooting going on in Las Vegas, and over 50 people killed, hundreds of people injured. We pass our prayers and condolences to them and to the lost souls and their families, and hope to God that those shooters serve life in prison.
Well, Taylor, I can give you an update on that. It was only one shooter.
Just one.
He appeared to have acted alone, and when the police zoomed in on him, he took the cowardly way out and took his own life. So, but from
he committed suicide, didn't he?
So now we just got to investigate the motive and the reasoning why this terrible tragedy occurred to begin with.
Well, the only price he can pay then is just burning in hell. That's it. You kill a lot of people and then you kill yourself. That's what gets you to hell. That's what God does not like. Sorry, we stick with God. And we believe in God and we love God. But this is not a church. But we do like to pass our condolences and prayers to the lives that they lost and their families again. That being said, it is now time to recap the Lions' 14-7 victory at the Minnesota Vikings.
Touchdown, Detroit Lions!
They are now 2-0 at US Bank Stadium. Can you believe that? Lifetime? You kidding me? Their defense held the Vikings to just 7 points on the road. But it's not the Metrodome at least. But man, the Lions' defense has been bringing it.
I've been quite impressed. To piggyback quick briefly on what you mentioned. No, it's not the Metrodome for some reason, which had always been a house of horrors for the Lions in years and years and years past. Maybe all they needed was a change of scenery or moving to a new building to help offset all those years of futility of not being able to win in Minnesota whenever it called upon them to do so. So like you mentioned, they're 2-0 so far. Both of those times, they found ways to win through wild methods and tactical methods. This one was much more tactical than it was wild. A little bit ugly, but they did what they needed to do. And to mention briefly, to touch on what you mentioned about the defense, they forced 3 turnovers on Sunday. Now, if you could go back to last year, they had 14 turnovers total. They're already up to 11 4 games in, so that lets you know
That is incredible.
But instincts that not only been installed in the defense, but also the execution of the players, to how they get things done, forcing the ball loose, going after, taking advantage of opportunities. Glover Quinn seems to be involved in almost practically nearly every big defensive play that resulted in a turnover, or be a forcing a fumble or interception. He and Darius Slay both. I think reading on Twitter, it was mentioned probably by Burkett or somebody else that this team had 26 sacks all last season, yet by its current pace, they're looking to possibly have 40 by the end of the year. So that's something to pay attention to, knowing some issues that we thought were plaguing defensive line coming into this year. So it seems to be doing at least more than we anticipated so far, especially Anthony Zettel. So it seems the only thing that's needed to take that D-line to the next level, aside from maybe getting another friend to replace, to have as an insurance for Ansa, who seems to be inconsistent, mostly due to some health issues he has, but he needs a better D-tackle to plug in next to Sean Robinson. That's the only thing your D-line needs to take that next step. But speaking of, as we continue with the defense, I thought it was quite impressive that knowing that they weren't going to have Gerard Davis for the second game in a row due to the concussion issue that he suffered against the Giants on Monday Night Football, had to plug in somebody else who was next man up. And my goodness, even though Dalvin Cook was getting those yards that he was getting before he unfortunately got injured, and by the way, big prayers, big thoughts go up to Dalvin Cook. He is a tremendous, unique, and remarkable talent. Trust me, he showed it all throughout his collegiate career, and he was definitely showing it on Sunday, how in some instances he should have been the first running back taken off the board. So with him going down like that, blowing his ACL, it is very, very disheartening to see that happen to a player that young and that early into his career. So you only hope that not only that he recovers, but that it doesn't prove to be a detrimental long-term effect to his career. But going back on topic, back to the Lions, what they were able to do, not only were they forcing turnovers, they weren't. They held Minnesota in check for the most part when it came to third down, making plays, getting off the field. Case Keenum, who remember last year when he was playing with the Rams, there was an instance where he threw 19 straight consecutive completions without an incompletion or a drop pass against the Lions. And not to mention, for this year at least, or at least the game prior before this one against Tampa, he had 369 yards through the air. So some people were probably expecting Keenum to, but maybe let's see if he can continue to surprise people now that Sam Bradford's down with another injury again. It was not meant to be. He only had moderate success, if any. It was in the fourth quarter when he was trying to lead the team down the field. But other than that, he was held in check by the Lions defense, whether it be for not giving up too many big plays to the air or getting timely sacks or big hits when needed. Good job and tremendous effort by not just the pass rush, but also the whole entire defense in general. 7 points against a divisional opponent on the road. That's as close to a perfect defense performance as you can ever ask for.
Close to indeed. Let's hope they can keep that up against the Packers later on this season, especially at Lambeau Field.
Yeah, I mean,
that'll be a big test.
Definitely your barometer, your bar standard where you think where you could potentially go as high as you can go for how big you want your goals to be for this season. Now, to do that, not only are they going to have to hope that their defense can have bigger days or more consistent days like they had on Sunday, but also making sure that certain things on their offense are tweaked, i.e. their offensive line. Now, granted, going into this one, I was expecting this to be a little bit of a dogfight because Stafford has had his troubles with Minnesota, not so much from the stat perspective. I mean, he's never thrown, in his whole career against Minnesota, he's never thrown an interception inside the red zone. So he hasn't had that type of problem. But the problem that he has had in terms of dealing with the Vikings is protection. He's been hit a ton In the 14 previous games against the Vikings, he was sacked for a total of 43 times. 43. And in this game alone, he got brought down 7 times. That's the most he's been sacked in almost 2 years since that ugly ass whooping in London at the hands of the Chiefs, where he got sacked 5 times. This one was 7. Now, you can attribute that to, I would say, the crowd noise, but also the fact that you're having still having an issue on what to do with Greg Robinson, your left tackle. He didn't have a bad game compared to, say, what he showed against the Giants, but it was noticeable on some plays where he was just getting pushed around by whatever DN they threw at him, whether it be Everson Griffin, who commented earlier in the lead-up to this game that he had tendencies to be, that Robinson, rather, that I'm referring to, had tendencies to be lazy, or Daniel Harris on one play pushing Robinson directly into Stafford, leading to one of those 7 sacks. So, in terms for the offensive line, it was a good thing to see Travis Swanson back. So now you got 3/5, or essentially one whole piece away from getting the line you intended to have a Rich League back, because you're still waiting on Taylor Decker to get back from his injury. So you hope his recovery process goes well enough that he will be able to get back in time. But you got to deal with the cards that you're dealt with. So with the offensive line, it is what it is. You still have your strength on the right side. You got Travis Swanson back. And yes, you gave up 7 sacks, but this is a formidable Vikings defense. Now, there was a big reason why they started 5-0 last year. It wasn't just, they were pulling wins out of their ass. No, they were playing a hard-hitting defense. And for a while now, under Mike Zimmer, that's been integral into their DNA. Now, the one thing that has not been integral has been offensive production and execution. And did you know a quick quirky stat? Minnesota under Mike Zimmer coming into this game, they were 23-3 whenever they scored 21 or more points. So that lets you know of how much of a good defense you have, where even if you get to just 3 touchdowns or 21 points period, no matter what combination, all you need to really do is rely on your defense to have a stout showing, and you'll be in a good position as anyone to win the game. Whereas in this game, there was only 7 points. So while the Vikings defense did great, the Lions offense did better. Some would say you could attribute that to Dalvin Cook injuring himself. That may be, but the Lions have faced occurrences before where they faced backups. They still got tore up, i.e. Matt Flynn, 6 touchdown game comes to mind. So seeing them handle their business, not get too excited, and stay focused and handle whatever Minnesota was throwing at them was quite impressive to see.
Absolutely. But in the process, the Lions lose yet another defensive player, linebacker Paul Warlow, out 2 to 4 weeks with an MCL sprain. At least it's not a tear, but it kind of hurts.
Still,
but no matter what,
it's the last thing you wanted to see.
Yeah, the last thing you want to see. But then again, the way the Lions' defense has been overcoming adversity, whether it be injuries or anything else, they keep getting the job done through the first 4 weeks.
Yeah, I mean, and that's not just the defense, the team in general. Like, for instance, you saw the big punt return against the Giants, which was one of the big plays that led to that victory. Not to mention the pick sixes and the defensive turnovers as well. And, of course, the dependency on Matthew Stafford to be as good as that big money contract that he's being paid to be. Granted, he had an off day, but like I said, he's always had his struggles against Minnesota. That was almost a given, and luckily his defense stepped up to help him out. But this team will go long. At the end of the day, they will go as far as Stafford will go. You can only hope that as he faces teams that doesn't have as strong defense as Minnesota, he'll have more productive and more efficient games where you can see he's either slinging the ball or leading to drives that end in touchdowns. And that was one thing, though, they still got to work on. If anything, they still got to find a way to cash in on drives. They did a little bit better job this week converting one of those Minnesota turnovers into a touchdown. But let's not forget, going back to that infamous Falcons game, you can say, wow, they really should have won. But to be honest, if they had converted more touchdowns selling for 4 field goals, they would have had a better shot at beating Atlanta. So those are those little things you look back on that you let linger long enough to come back to bite you in the end. So that's one thing that the Lions still need to work on, is finishing drives more, not red zone, but just saying, like, when you get closer and closer, you can't take a penalty or can't take a stand and all of a sudden got to settle for a field goal. Especially if you get a turnover or something. You got to find a way to convert big opportunities into big points, i.e. touchdowns, as much and often as possible. So that's one thing they still have going for them in terms of needing to work on something to get better.
Right, and Matt Prater can't do it by himself. He kicked 2 field goals. Lions got 1 touchdown, made a 2-point conversion too, but only mustered 14 points. Granted, their defense got the job done. 14-7 win in Minnesota. The Lions improved to 3-1. Could have been 4-0, but still 3-1. Still a tie for first place in the NFC North Division with the Packers. They head back home to Ford Field and play the Carolina Panthers Sunday at 1 on Fox. Cam Newton, always a threat, but there's more players to watch.
Yes, there is. There's D'Angelo Williams for one. There's a familiar name for some of the listeners out there. There's Devin Funchess, who appeared as a target in the absence of Greg Olson's long-term injury.
A former Michigan Wolverine.
Right, exactly, the former Wolverine. Thank you. So there's that to anticipate. And, of course, Cam Newton himself. He's always going to be a versatile threat, either with his arm or with his legs. Now, recently, in recent games, he has not shown his prototypical self, the stellar star that we saw winning the 2015 MVP and leading the Panthers to Super Bowl 50. We've seen a Cam that has looked a little bit shell-shocked, whether it be taking hits, getting dinged up, or committing turnovers, whatever the case may be. He has not looked as usual himself. Well, he looked like his vintage self in his past game against, of all teams, the defending champion Patriots in their crib at Gillette Stadium in Foxborough, where they shockingly got the win with a walk-off field goal at the buzzer. So, if you somehow go...
In other words, it's as time expired. There's no buzzer in football.
Well, that's the term that you use, basically, when you call it like that. That's essentially as close to a walk-off as you can possibly get.
The Patriots must be struggling, by the way. 2 losses at home.
When you have a defense as bad as that, where you're last in the league and giving up yards as well as last in scoring defense, yeah, you're going to have some problems. I don't care if your quarterback is one of the greatest, if not the greatest ever, and you have a great coach. If you have a bad defense, it's going to hinder you tremendously.
Yeah, Tom Brady.
The Lions don't have that kind of defense, so it will be interesting to see if Cam can replicate close to what he saw against New England, or it'll be more of what we've seen in past 2 recent games where he has his struggles.
Yeah, and that quarterback and head coach of those Patriots is Tom Brady and Bill Belichick, of course, as we all know. But their defense is the name of the game, like we pointed out. Defense wins games. Offense gets points, but defense wins games. That's the way it is. So the Panthers are 3-1, 2-0 on the road. They're road warriors. The Lions really have to step up their game at home. They're 1-1 at home. They play the Falcons. They're going to play another tough opponent in the Carolina Panthers. The matchup predictor on ESPN say 58.9% say Detroit's going to win. 40.8% the Carolina Panthers. The spread is 2.5 in favor of the Lions, who are favorites. The over-under is 44. Now, the injury report, the rest of the injury report looks like this. We already mentioned Jared Davis. Amir Abdullah, questionable. Kenny Galladay, inactive. We may not see him on the field at all against the Panthers. The Panthers, man, 5 sure injuries. Deshaun Hall, defensive end, out. Ryan Khalil, out. Greg Olson at tight end on the IR. Damier Byrd at wide receiver on the injured reserve. And safety Kurt Coleman out.
Now, luckily, if you're Carolina, it's a good thing you don't have like one of those notable defensive names, like say, for instance, Luke Kuechly on that list. Otherwise, you'd be really scared and terrified of having to go up against this Lions offense. But on the flip side, you have to wonder, will Jarrett Davis be ready this week, or will he still have to go through another week in that concussion protocol?
Safety, sorry.
And for Kenny Galladay, he's having shoulder problems. You wonder if he'll be taken off the inactive list, or they'll hold him out for one more week as well. So that would be a great weapon to have going against Carolina's defense. But it'll be interesting to see how that will come into effect as the week plays out.
Well, we'll see what the Lions decide to do with Kenny Galladay and Jarrett Davis.
Mm-hmm.
Also, another key player to watch is Jonathan Stewart, 59 carries for 230 yards. He hasn't scored a touchdown yet, but he's racking up yards on carries through the first 4 weeks.
I've noticed the Lions, they've done their fair share of handling the opposing team's run attack. They haven't given up big gains or big gashes. Yes, they gave it a touchdown to Dalvin Cook, but hey, there's Dalvin Cook in a goal line situation. That's almost impossible to stop. So, and even still, they held him in check until he got hurt.
Can't take it for granted, but it's going to be a little bit easier. Can't take it for granted, but it's not going to be. But it's not going to be as hard as Dalvin Cook.
Right.
So, let's predict this baby. Who you got and what's the score? I'm thinking the Lions in a very close one, 27-20.
I see this going right down to the wire again, much similar to the Atlanta game. I think, for instance, you're going to have to see if the defense can make another last-minute stop like they did against Minnesota last week. Only this time there'll be more points scored on both sides of the equation. So, as to who I think will win and the score, something's telling me Minnesota, something's telling me Panthers, but I'll bite the bullet and say Lions. Close one, I agree. I'll say the score would be, let's go 30-28.
Oh, Matt Prater, I believe, either would kick a game-winning field goal or the defense would hold it, would just barely hold the Panthers off at the end. Possibly the defense, like you pointed out. It would be a combination between the Falcons' finish and the Vikings' finish, except Detroit's going to win.
And never rule out Stafford craziness in the fourth quarter. He seems to turn into some type of voodoo wizard whenever the fourth quarter starts, especially when trailing in a deficit.
Right. For the first 3 quarters, though, he needs to the entire offense, not just Stafford, but the entire offense needs to clean it up. TJ Lang, right. You still got him, but I just
Ebron has been pretty much useless this whole season. That's why you're seeing guys like Darren Felds getting more chances and opportunities. I think he had 4 or 5 catches, productive catches for relative good yards. He was moving the ball. That's why Stafford kept going to him. You wonder what's the issue there with Ebron. Can you read between the lines there? If not, you don't know what's up. But he's definitely got to get more involved. If not, helping with the pass protection or with his reception, then something at least.
Yeah, it could be. So there you go. We picked the Lions to win by a close one. I pick by a touchdown. Ed Smith picks by a safety, technically, 30-28. I picked 27-20. We both picked the Lions to win. Let's get to the more important topic in terms of the Lions. Owner Martha Ford has asked the Lion players not to kneel during the national anthem. So, in other words, they're standing against what Donald Trump wants every NFL player to do on an NFL team to do. But not every team has to do that. So there you go.
Yeah, this is the slippery slope topic where things could go horribly wrong if I say something. But it's, I do have to comment on it because A, it involves the Lions, and B, it is an issue that I have strong personal feelings about, and this is a way to measure the two. Martha Ford made a statement, was saying that that she would have no problem contributing to the athletes, whatever cause of their choice or desire. Which, I'm fine for her making that statement. But when she prefaced it or postfaced it by saying she would prefer if more of her players stood instead of kneeling or whatever the case may be, in essence, it looks on the surface as if she was insinuating hush money or buying them off to stay, to shut up about their issue, about their plight. Essentially paying them off, like the whole paid patriotism that the NFL instituted. When there's a little bit of history with it, because everybody thinks, it's been a long-standing tradition for standing for the flag and this and that, and yeah, it's been sacred all the way back to 2009. Okay, it's less than a decade old. When based on the premise of getting money. They were not forced, but they decided to implement rules such as standing for the anthem and military apparel and merchandise or whatever the case may be. So that was as clear-cut a case of paid patriotism as you're ever going to get. Mind you, this was a full 8 years after 9/11, which this policy was enacted. Not one, not two, not three, to quote LeBron, but 8 full years. What changed their tune to help that? Some would argue, arguably, the almighty dollar. So it makes you question a little bit, was their true intent, how was their intention of trying to give appraisal and give, quote-unquote, respect to our military personnel? So that whole, whenever they say, stand for the flag, and, you're disrespecting this and that, how about you go talk to the high-ups of your league that wait until 2009, 8 years after the worst attack on this country's history since Pearl Harbor, to implement the whole patriotism thing of standing for the flag. So there's that. And really, what the real issue here, it's not about the flag. Believe it or not, it's not about the flag. There is a reason why players are taking a knee. There's a reason why Colin Kaepernick himself took a knee. Originally, to begin with, it was not to, say F America or say, I hate this country or I hate our troops. It was to bring attention to the fact that people of color, men and women of color, were undergoing unfair and tactical examples of police brutality, i.e. the number of shootings of unarmed people of color, unfair arrests, but namely that issue, more importantly, of killings, whether it be Mike Brown, Samir Rice, Philando Castile, the list goes on and on and on. We'd be here all goddamn night if I had to mention all those things. So that was the issue that Colin took a knee for. And yet it got twisted and spun into something far different than that. Even the President of the United States had felt the need to throw his weight in on the subject and refer to players taking their, utilizing their First Amendment right to peacefully protest, calling them SOBs, referring them as a son of a bitch.
Oh.
Like, really? So,
you don't need to go that far down.
I was glad for the players to take their stance of unity in terms of uniting against the divisive comments made by the president. But at the same token, where were you guys doing this last year when Colin Kaepernick needed the support the most? And where are you still on the issue that he originally took a knee for to begin with? So we shouldn't be supposedly paying hush money to players, to not exercise their First Amendment rights. Because besides, what is the whole method or point behind protest to begin with? Isn't at its base protest meant to be a form of bringing a level that's deemed uncomfortable to a certain extent. That's the reason why, to get you to pay attention to what's going on, to see why they're protesting. So that message needs to be displayed more, not so much so as a defiant gesture against the divisive president, but rather to showcase and bring spotlight to an issue that many, many, many people in this country have no voice to speak on and speak for themselves for. That's what should be the true issue, should be about here.
Yeah, this is an example of what's called the freedom of speech. And what people have the right to say, and what people are allowed to say. That, I mean, this issue has been taken to a whole new level.
It is. So, with all due respect, Mr. President, how about you focus less on tweeting about football players and focus more on making sure people in Puerto Rico are getting the help they need. Now, you saw on the news today, you took one step. That's good, but you should not open your mouth and try to compare this to Hurricane Katrina or whatever the issue was. Just do what you got to do. Help the people out, which, by the way, those are American citizens there in Puerto Rico as well. So you say you want to help Americans, protect Americans, go protect Americans, and stop being a national and international embarrassment, please.
Yeah. Donald Trump is just a treasonic man. There are tons of reasons why Donald Trump should not have been president ever. We know who Donald Trump is deep down as a human being. Granted, he was a pretty damn tough business guy. A decade or two back. But man, just his discriminatory remarks about women, players of the people of different races, and
religions.
Yeah, religions. Yeah, I mean, religions still are respected by God. Donald Trump is just having all sorts of problems with a lot of things. That's why Jeff Moss, hear us out. We voted for Hillary Clinton and urge everybody else to vote for Hillary Clinton as well. Sorry it didn't turn out that way. We're still against Trump with you, Jeff Moss, if you're hearing us out there. Jeff Moss, the founder and editor-in-chief of the Detroit Sports Rag. So, let's move on to college football.
Touchdown, Michigan!
Well, of course, the Michigan Wolverines got their bye week, but there was a lot more to it. They are now ranked 7th because number 5 USC last Thursday night got upset at number 16 Washington State 30-27 on a game-winning field goal with just precious seconds left. I saw it on ESPN, and as I was preparing, that was last Friday night. I'm sorry, that was last Friday night when I returned home from Mid-Lower Michigan.
Well, it's a good thing that these Pac-12 games at 10:30, it's going to bleed over into the early next morning. Hence the quirky hashtag that we see on Twitter and other forms of social media, Pac-12 after dark, because you always seem to expect the unexpected whenever that happens. So this is another great example. A game, fine finish. And, of course, a fine result if you're Michigan. That means your team moves up one spot more. You didn't have to do a damn thing this week.
Right. Yeah, and look where you are right now if you're the Maize and Blue. Plus, your quarterback, Wilton Speight, who hasn't done too well thus far this year, is out with an undisclosed injury multiple weeks. Any further analysis on that undisclosed injury, Ed, if you may?
Well, granted, it was from Michigan website, mgoblog.com, that I saw this headline, but it was a thread that referenced an article. Not sure, I can't quite remember the link at this time, but it stated an unconfirmed rumor that apparently Speight had or suffered some type of vertebrae injury against Purdue. Now, if you ask me, I believe Speight was still showing lingering effects from getting injured against Iowa last year, and he still hasn't fully recovered 100%. So I think that was affecting him still, and now when you add on the fact that he got battered against Purdue, yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if something to that effect would be a neck, spine, back, whatever the case may be. That's serious enough where, yeah, he's going to have to take some time off here. And this is now the perfect opportunity for John O'Korn. Now, maybe the reason why they kept going to Speight is because, not just because he was a senior, but because O'Korn wasn't showing that good enough progress in practice. If that's the case, it must be something different. And maybe it could be a case where O'Korn is much different under game speed than he is practice speed. Some kids, some players, that they are what you say, they really are. They are just that, gamers. And John O'Korn is a gamer who seems to react better when it's, this perfect situation, live crowd, people coming at you. Reminds me of Stafford in a weird way. And so be it. But for the offense to perform better, no matter who's the quarterback, you're going to need better protection from the offensive line. That's how you got Speight hurt to begin with. So the message has got to be said, okay, you already cost us one quarterback. If you cost us one more, we're fucked. So it's very imperative for the rest of this season, and protecting the QB, whoever he is, needs to be your top priority. As to how things will go, well, Taylor, I'll let you take over from here on that one.
Nate Johnson, you mean? Or do you mean Wilton Speight's injury?
No, okay, moving on to the next topic to preview the Michigan State game.
Well, I got one more update. Defensive back Nate Johnson was arrested and charged for domestic violence or assault early Saturday morning. Yeah.
I believe he was kicked off the team, or was he kicked? Was he suspended indefinitely, or was he dismissed?
I have no update on that, but he was arrested. That's the last I heard.
But I do believe he was removed in some form, in some shape or form, from the team. I just don't know if it was an indefinite suspension or an outright dismissal. If this issue is true, this is definitely something that's got to be worked on, combated if you're Michigan, if you're Harbaugh, because remember, you already had Jordan Lewis going through a similar situation last year. Now, apparently, you're staring at this issue in the eye again. You got to set some type of precedent of where it's as close to zero tolerance as possible when it comes to domestic violence. I understand you have talented players, but when your players are going out and committing acts like this, actions need to be taken and consequences need to be suffered, period. So, you do what you got to do.
Yeah, and to be fair, I would suspend him and then playing later on when Michigan especially goes up against the Ohio State Buckeyes in the Big House in Ann Arbor. Nate Johnson.
If you want to give him his fair due process, then I will agree with the indefinite suspension and wait to see how the case plays out.
Oh yeah, definitely fair enough. And we'll preview Michigan at Michigan State later on, the college football and the Mitten quick picks. The Spartans.
Touchdown MSU!
Beat Iowa for the first time since 2008 at Spartan Stadium, 17-10 over the Iowa Hawkeyes. First time they beat them at Spartan Stadium since 2008. Felton Davis, a wide receiver, 2 touchdown receptions, and they let the defense do all the rest of the work, just like the Lions did against the Vikings. Another very defensive game. Iowa brought their defense to the table, to a hostile environment in East Lansing at Spartan Stadium. But the Spartans' defense was the much better unit especially after Felton Davis from Brian Lewerke set the tone for this game.
Yeah, not to mention one key thing, turnovers. I think there was about 2 or 3 big turnovers in the second half that proved to be the difference in this one.
Yeah, and Iowa was fumbling the ball over the place.
Right.
Yeah.
So if you're missing one thing, it was 2 turnovers, both to be complete killers against Iowa when they were moving the ball, trying to either tie or maybe even, bring this game closer. And that's what helped Michigan State, helped enable their offense to drain the clock, take away Iowa's chance or ability to muster some type of comeback here. So if you're Michigan, that's definitely one thing you got to avoid. I was impressed though by what Michigan State was able to do, because I figured Iowa, this is a team coming off of that last second heartbreaking loss to Penn State at home the week before. I figured, hey, they're going to come out, they're going to be angry, they're going to be pissed off, they're going to be looking to take it out on Old Sparty. But NSU, their team that acted like how Iowa should have acted and jumped on them to begin the game with that 14-0 splat, 14-0 burst, I should say. So I'm sure that took the Hawkeyes by surprise eventually, and also give credit to MSU for shutting down Adrian Watley, their Iowa star running back, who had a big game against Penn State. He only had 17 carries for 30 yards on the ground. So that was one big key of the Iowa's offense, and once you had that stagnated, there was nothing else they could do, and thus the 17-10 score that we saw. So very solid win, a much-needed win for MSU after that embarrassment against Notre Dame, and a much good prepping warm-up before they face Michigan.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. The Paul Bunyan Trophy will be up for grabs on ABC Saturday night at 7:30 at Michigan Stadium, the Big House in Ann Arbor. But before we get to that, let's get a little MACtion. The Western Michigan Broncos absolutely annihilated the Ball State Cardinals 55-3. All I can say is the Ball State Cardinals are a very bad team, totally mismatched against a good Western Michigan Broncos team, especially at Waldo Stadium in Kalamazoo, a hostile environment. There was no way those BSU Redbirds were going to score a single touchdown. The Broncos, on all units, executed. They only held the Cardinals' offense to just a field goal. And the Broncos were firing on all cylinders, their offense. Man, oh man, that was quite a stinker. Broncos improved to 3-2 and 1-0 in the MAC. My Central Michigan Chippewas, however...
Touchdown, Central Michigan!
Oh, God. 28-8 at the Boston College Eagles. Man. I mean, CMU struck first. I get that. They got a safety. But their offense, man, they put up only the other 6 points. And their defense, after that safety, gave up 28. Oh, my God. 28-8, the Boston College Eagles ground my Central Michigan Chippewas. The Chippewas are now 2-3 and 0-1 in the MAC. That was just piss poor by the offense. Chippewas never even scored 10, evidently. My God. Well, the Eastern Michigan Eagles put up another fight against the Kentucky Wildcats on the road. They fell short 24-20, but
yeah, but give credit to them to hanging tough with another Power 5 team. I think some people were expecting Kentucky to beat them by a bigger margin, but Eastern gave them a scare. I think that needs to be commended.
Yeah. I saw chunks of it, including the ending. Eastern scored a touchdown, but Paul Fricano, their place kicker, missed the extra point, And the Eagles, as a result, were forced to try to get a touchdown late with a Hail Mary pass from around midfield, and of course they failed. They threw a pick in the end zone for a touchback as time expired. Man, you gotta nail those extra point kicks, Paul Fricano, especially in the clutch. My God, I don't know. Whatever the case may be, you get over your nerves. You just focus on your job and do it right. Eagles dropped to 2-2 and 0-1. Still 0-1 in the MAC. That was not a MAC game. They lost to Ohio in double overtime at home, 27-20 the week before. The Bobcats, that would be. Now it's time for college football in the Mitten Quick Picks, starting with the in-state rivalry game, the Spartans and Wolverines. Spartans 3-1, 1-0 in the Big Ten. Wolverines 4-0 overall. It's time, Ed. I'll let you take the floor.
Yep, it is the big one, the big in-state brawl clash for bragging rights in the Big Paul Bunyan Trophy. It's worth noting that this will be a night game with a 7:30 start. The first official starting night game in the history of the series is the fourth official night game in the history of Michigan Stadium. Of course, the past three under the lights occasions: 2 against Notre Dame in 2011, 2013, 21 against Penn State in 2014. Wolverines won all of those. Quick question, for a second, as to how it could affect the team's psyche, each team's psyche, this seeing a loud, rowdy, raucous crowd of over 100,000, waiting all damn day for the chance to let everything out at night. You would tend to think that favors the home team, but, nothing is ever guaranteed for certain in this rivalry.
There's no momentum.
Case in point, the last time these two teams played at Michigan Stadium, the infamous, botched punt that led to Michigan State getting a shocking walk-off victory against Michigan, 27-23.
Blake O'Neill, Jalen Watts-Jackson. Those are the names I remember.
Yeah, they'll never be forgotten for sure, especially if you live in East Lansing. Now this is a far different matchup, far two different teams that we saw on that October day in 2015. This is a Michigan defense that somehow, after losing 10 starters to the NFL last year, or just losing 10 starters period, most of those being drafted by the NFL, I should say, they still so far have put up essentially the number one top-ranked defense in the whole damn nation. Don Brown deserves immense credit and kudos for somehow pulling that off 2 years in a row with essentially as quick of a reload job as you can ever get, and he's done it splendidly so far. Not so much turnovers, but definitely with ferocious pressure, incredible speed, and just flat-out athleticism, though youthful. Especially Devin Bush, their middle linebacker, who has potential to be an absolute star stud for years to come, especially on Sundays. The way he's playing, flying around, it's almost every single time, where the play is ended on defensive end, you can expect Devin Bush to be near or around that ball. So he's definitely going to be the X factor, in my opinion, on who to watch out for both teams coming into this matchup. Specifically, a unit for unit. Do you want me to stay at five questions or later on, or want me to get to it now?
Save that for 5 questions. There's a ton of interesting unit matchups, especially Lewerke versus John O'Corn.
Don't want to spoil that now. I'll save that for later. So I'll just move on to my next few points here. It's going to be interesting to see how the Michigan offense, now with a full bye week, I think this bye week might have been a blessing in disguise. It gave them a chance to get acclimated to John O'Corn taking first-team snaps, but also do it while getting rest at the same time, so that they're fully rejuvenated and refreshed for this game, albeit maybe a little rusty. So it's interesting to see how fast each team starts for this game. as to how the offense will look, it's simple. It comes down, can the O-line protect their QB, and can the running backs garner the yards that they need? Can Michigan establish that running back, that rushing attack period? It's worth noting, though, that whenever the team rushes for 100 yards or more under Jim Harbaugh's tenure, they're 23-0, and yet in the 7 games where they've failed to do that, they're 1-6. So I think it's fairly obvious that running the ball is going to be essentially big and important part of their game plan for Michigan to get this W. Also, playoff proud. 100,000 people at night ready to see you whip your in-state rivals' ass. Should be as much of an adrenaline rush as possible. Use that to fuel you, but not misguide you into making mistakes. Also, in terms of one thing that could keep Michigan State in this game, turnovers. That's how they're able to shut down Iowa's drives, kill their momentum, and essentially beat them. It's, of course, what led to them beating Michigan the last time they played in Ann Arbor, and it will be the one thing that will give them a shot to win this game if Michigan shoots themselves in the foot. It's simple. You just got to protect that rock at all costs. Now, in terms of what the defense can do, I expect the front seven to be their usual dominant selves. However, when it comes to certain situations, can you make sure that you blitz well enough to whereas you don't leave any underneath room for Brian Lewerke to run loose? That's why I was thinking if you spy him with, like, say, a linebacker or a nickelback, this is where Devin Bush will really come in handy here. It would take away Lewerke's ability to try to, scramble or pull an option, whatever, to find some running room underneath to possibly inflict damage that way, and just force him strictly into the pocket passer. That will allow your D-line and pass rush to get at him and wreak absolute havoc, and it would just lead to each domino falling for what Michigan needs to do to win. So it's interesting to see I want to see how they can establish those keys aside from the big matchup that we'll talk about later in 5 questions. But that's how I see if whoever's going to win this game, those are the big keys: running the ball, protecting the ball, and who can implement the better execution.
That would be true. Now, what are the keys for Michigan State to victory? I know you pointed out the keys for Michigan to victory. Now,
for Michigan State, they got to start fast. Dave Warren can't line up in his proto-conservative, first down, hand it off to L.J. Scott. Now you get stuck with either second and long or second and nothing. And what relates to that, now in terms of getting better starts on first and second down, it takes you out of those third and long situations where Don Brown can really send his guys after you. Because Don Brown, he'll blitz no matter what, but especially in third and long situations, because he has that much faith in his secondary that now he sends his mega strength, which is his front seven, after you on a third and long situation. Oh, may God have mercy on you. So it's very key for MSU to be aggressive, not just on first and second half, but just right out the gate. Try not to let dictate towards Michigan's pace. Try to catch them off guard as much as possible, especially when they're the ones coming off of a bye week. So that'd be very imperative. Also, can Brian Lewerke sustain playing in this massive type of atmosphere? Yes, I'm sure he's seen what it's like to be around that Michigan Stadium before, but not like this. Trust me, I've seen the past 3 night games. That crowd gets very, very much more amped when they've waited all day and you have a chance for a 7:30, 8:30 start to see you tear somebody's head open. Trust me, it almost works for practically every other building, every other stadium in this country. I don't see why it can have that positive effect for Michigan. So there's that. And also, calm confidence. I think with Mark D'Antonio as your head coach, knowing the fact that you have what it takes and have shown before that you can win when everyone's doubting you, especially on the road, this should be usual territory for you. So, if anything, the pressure is more on Michigan to make sure that they don't mess up or fuck up in any way that could cost them the game. So, essentially, if you're MSU, you're playing with money here.
Oh, yeah. Definitely. So, let's get down to the prediction. Let's boil it all down now that we boiled down the keys to the game for both teams to victory. I'll let you go first.
Well, when it comes down to it, I think Michigan State's offense is better than we give them credit for. And I definitely think their team is, nowhere near as bad as that mere basement dweller that they were last year. However, knowing that they're going against a much far different team and a far different caliber of defense that they have faced in weeks past, and knowing it's going to be sure to be a hostile environment, I see this as a game where, MSU, they may get some plays, and they may even get some points in early, but overall, Michigan's defense, they will find a rhythm, and it may even lead to them getting a turnover of their own, at the crowd, play out the crowd. Michigan, I see them using, when it comes down to Don Brown versus Dave Warner, I take Don Brown hands down. As to how Michigan's offense will do, I think they're going to be feeding off of what their defense can provide again, and will utilize being able to set up a rushing attack, i.e. Ty Isaac, Karan Higdon, Chris Evans, maybe a little bit of Eddie McDoom in there as well. They have those different weapons to throw at you, whether it be speed or power or finesse or elusiveness to keep you off guard. So I expect that to come into play, and when it's all said and done, I expect this to be a Michigan victory. Don't get me wrong, I wish I could be a total prick and say Michigan's going to wipe the fucking floor with them, but I got to be mindful that it's a rivalry game. Anything, and I do mean literally anything can happen. We've seen that play out more times than we can count on fingers and toes, especially, like I said, 2 years ago. I hate to harp on that, but it is what it is. It's always a constant reminder of how the game is never over until it is over. That being said, this is a stout Michigan team, primarily their defense. They're going to become motivated. They're looking to prove a point at home, national TV, night game. I see Michigan winning this one, I'll say, by a score of 24-10, maybe 24-13, if MSU gives them a field goal, an extra field goal or so.
I'm gonna make it a little bit closer, but still pick Michigan to win. They're on a chase for that national championship game. They're looking for redemption against Ohio State later on, but they're in totality they're a hungry team. Michigan State's trying to keep up with Michigan, try to yank Michigan down to the one-loss club with them. But it's going to be a hostile environment in Ann Arbor, the Sea of Maize, with a blue outlining trim. But on the field, like I pointed out, there's no momentum in this rivalry. It's a very tense rivalry when it comes down to the Spartans and the Wolverines. The Spartans brought their better defense than against the Iowa Hawkeyes defense. Michigan Wolverines, coming off a bye week, they're refreshed and ready to go. They got their defense set to go. They got John O'Korn to go. That's going to be a test for the Spartans defense. Brian Lewerke, he's going to be a test for Michigan's defense, but I think they'll hold the rest of the offense down. Brian Lewerke's mostly going to have to do most of the offensive work by himself. Especially the way LJ Scott has played, which has been awful. 5 fumbles at least. This is what it comes down to. The Spartans have to take care of the damn football. The Wolverines have taken better care of the football than the Spartans have. It's also going to be a battle of turnovers. And I believe Michigan's going to win the turnover battle. Like 2-0 or 2-1 or 3-0 or 3-1, whatever you may call it, whatever you may predict. I'm going to go ahead and predict the Wolverines to just edge the Spartans 24-21 by a field goal.
That is too close for comfort.
Yeah, that's the rivalry that I'm looking at. But still, the turnover battle, it's gonna. I'm gonna change my prediction, 24-17, by a touchdown. Now, let me be fair here. How about 24-19?
I was going to say, if you want to go 24-20, that would be fine.
Yeah, 24-20, yeah. Yeah, the Spartans would manage to get 2 touchdowns and 2 field goals. The Wolverines would get like 3 touchdowns and win 1 field goal. I guess that's regularly how football is played offensively and defensively as well. So, predicting the rest of the college football in the men quick picks, the Eastern Michigan Eagles at the Toledo Rockets at noon. All Eagles games are on WEMU 89.1 FM in Ypsilanti. They're at Toledo is EMU, or are the EMU Eagles. But they played in a hostile environment in Kentucky and fought off a battle. I see them coming into Toledo with the same environment, except they have to cut back on their miscues, like that Paul Fricano missed field goal, which forced the Eagles to try a Hail Mary in the end zone and failed as time expired against the Kentucky Wildcats in the middle of the border. It's going to be a tough one. I have a little bit more doubt than optimism on this one. I'm gonna pick Toledo 30, Eastern Michigan 23. Eastern's going to come close, but Toledo's going to prevail. The Rockets.
I think Eastern, I think they build up some confidence with their efforts, how they perform against Rutgers and Kentucky, respectively. I think, I'm going to surprise you. I think there's going to be a little bit more low scoring, but I think Eastern will find a way, and I think they'll get a score. They'll get a victory by around 17-14.
All right. Then we got the Central Michigan Chippewas playing on the road against a tough Ohio Bobcats team who beat the Eastern Michigan Eagles. Speaking of which, 2 weeks ago, the week before EMU went to Kentucky. 2 weeks ago, before EMU went to Kentucky. That was a bye week in between. It wasn't double overtime. It was a battle. Except Ohio prevailed. EMU gave out and lost in double overtime by a touchdown. They're playing a much easier Central Michigan Chippewas team are the Ohio Bobcats. I see the Bobcats winning this one 35-7.
Yeah, I'm thinking more close in line to your prediction. I'd say 31-28 for Ohio. Maybe 31-20. 31-24, because I just don't see Central as that good enough a team, unfortunately.
No, you still think that CMU's vaunted offense, with Shane Morris included, could put up at least 20 points? I don't see that happening.
I could see that happening. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, last pick, but not least, or actually definitely at least, the Western Michigan Broncos at the Buffalo Bulls at 3:30. Western's going to rout this one 42-10. Not
let's
quite.
Go 35. Well, let's go 35-7.
Yep, still a rout. Kind of like my score prediction on CMU and Ohio. So, that's the college football in the Mitten quick picks. Please post your predictions in the comment bank below this episode. Now it's time for us to transition from football to baseball.
That one is long gone.
Baseball news, that is. Now, a week ago, last episode, we were celebrating the firing of Brad Ausmus like a week or two ago. But we're going to get to that later on. The Tigers, yes, they failed to reach 100 losses, but they still get the first overall pick in the 2018 MLB Draft by tying the San Francisco Giants for the worst record in MLB 2017. The Tigers own that tiebreaker for the first overall pick. And that's got to be good news for everybody, as long as the Tigers hold on to their first-round pick.
Yeah, I think for once they didn't. They decided not to pay attention to the Pistons' playbook of winning useless games late to fuck up your chance. Blue.
Right. Except this is not the lottery here. There's no lottery in the MLB Draft except, unlike the NBA and NHL drafts, they have a lottery system. MLB and NFL, they don't, but again, the Tigers, just please hold on to your first overall pick. You need to rebuild. It's the main part of your rebuilding process if you're Tigers general manager Al Avila. And I'm pretty sure Al Avila, you know that too.
Yeah, this is one distinct way to guarantee this is a rebuild job is what to get the number one overall pick. So hopefully use a good measure. There's going to be a horse of good prospects available for your discretion, at your discretion to use. And let's hope they pick the right one that fits their needs specifically, not an overabundance, like an actual need. I like, for example, an outfielder. That's the route I would go. So.
Yeah. Speaking of prospects, they signed 17-year-old third baseman Pedro Martinez Jr., the son of former Red Sox pitcher and Hall of Famer Pedro Martinez Sr. So, it does sound familiar.
I mean, it's a good way, to utilize a cachet, so to speak. He's got the name, he's got the reputation, he's got the bloodline, so to speak. But I believe he is a third baseman. I believe.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So
he's a third baseman. Yep.
So it'd be interesting to see how they would fit him.
Yep. Yeah, Nick Castellanos. They might have to waive him. He has no options left. They can't release him. They might have to either.
I wouldn't say waive. I think they'll have Pedro as the backup, more than likely.
Yeah, maybe. We'll see. But now let's get to the matter of the moment here. The search for the new manager, according to John Heyman, a former CBS Sports baseball writer, now a baseball writer for FanRag Sports, writes that current San Francisco Giants third base coach Phil Nevin, a former Tiger from the mid to late 90s, is a strong candidate for the next manager, which seems kind of a little bit interesting. Other options include Manny Acta, Ron Gardenhire. Right? He should not be an option. He's already retired. Cross him off the list, for God's sake. Alex and Joey Cora, they're sabermetricians too. Tigers first base coach Omar Vizquel, Frank's boy, Frank Vasner's guy. Hitting coach Lloyd McClendon and third base coach Dave Clark. We already mentioned those two and how pretty damn awful Dave Clark has been because he has no experience. He should be crossed off too. Also from the Score, former Braves manager Freddie Gonzalez. I think he's still managing the Braves, but Angels bench coach Dino Ebel, kind of like Ebel's store in Falmouth, somewhere near my home. on the northern outskirts of McBain, Michigan, and White Sox third base coach Joe McEwing. Now, these names just popped up, but we're going to try to do as much homework as we can on those three guys. Now, Freddie Gonzalez, granted, he had some bad seasons with the Atlanta Braves as their manager, especially in 2013, as far as I'm concerned. Angels bench coach Dino Ebel. Let me look at him up for a minute. By the way, just in case you're tuning in, audience, you are listening to episode 284 of the Sports Truth Weekend Review on Spreaker, SoundCloud, and iHeartRadio. Tigers were interested in Dino Ebel, and then Joe McEwing, the White Sox third base coach, will be interviewed this week. The Tigers are looking for, I don't know, at least to say the least, names we have not heard of, plus an experienced manager with a little bit of experience, Freddie Gonzalez, to be interviewed sometime this week. Let me take a... Yeah, this is from Bless You Boys. For John Morosi of MLB.com, the latest name to surface is current Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim bench coach Dave Ebel. Dave is his real name. Dino is his nickname. Ebel is 51 years old. He is named Angels Major League third base coach for the 2006 season. He became the bench coach after the 2013 season. All of those under Mike Scioscia. The California native is best known for the whistle he uses to call for specific defensive alignments. Kind of like Ron Wotus, the San Francisco Giants bench coach, like Ryan Schuling pointed out on the T92 FM, the Schuling Report. Additionally, when Ebel was the Angels' third base coach, he teamed up with Mike Scioscia to encourage aggressiveness on the base paths by the Angels players, something the Tigers could surely benefit from. He also has the best name among the Tigers' managerial candidates. Dino, can he get it? That's irrelevant. And then you got Chicago White Sox third base coach Joe McEwing. That's also from Bless You Boys, Ashley McLennan. McEwing was a former utility player who spent time with the St. Louis Cardinals, the New York Mets, the Kansas City Royals, and the Houston Astros, who have already clinched unanimously the AL West division. Has been a major league coach for the last 5 seasons with the White Sox. He has served as a third base coach and bench coach for the team. As a player, he was well liked by fans for dedication and hustle he brought to the game, something Tigers fans would surely appreciate. Well, that's irrelevant too. He's no longer a player. If the team won't make Don Kelly manager, that Bless You Boys wants Don Kelly to be the manager. Are you kidding me?
That's okay. Someone's clearly been hitting the pipe.
Yeah, Ashley McLennan. That it's like a Don Kelly fangirl or something like that. That's not smart. He is not without managerial experience either. Immediately following his 2008 retirement from baseball, he became the hitting coach for the Charlotte Knights. In the offseason of that same year, he became the manager for the White Sox Class A affiliate, the Winston-Salem Dash, and was awarded the Manager of the Year for his first season with the team in 2009. So, both Dino Ebel and Joe McEwing have no major league managerial experience. That's what it boils down to. But you take a look at the defensive alignments and and base pass strategies by Dino Ebel, and the award being won Manager of the Year in his first season with a Winston-Salem Dash in 2009, the Class A White Sox affiliate. So those I don't know. If the Tigers hire either one of those, it will be a wait and see approach what they bring to the table, what either man brings to the table as a manager.
See, my quick thought on this would be, it doesn't really necessarily matter who the manager could be for this season or the season after that. Is will they be around 2 or 3 years after that when the full talent, full fruits of the labor of this fire sale comes into play, comes to fruition, and matures to that level where this team can compete at an okay level again? Or is it going to be another Alan Trammell situation? Just don't know.
True. So all that considered, that's going to be another one of our 5 questions. So speaking of Don Kelly, the Tigers hired Don Kelly as a scout. Thankfully not a manager, but a scout. That's going to be a tough job, to say the least, for Don Kelly to take, because it's going to take more brain power to be a scout. And the scouting department, the Tigers scouting department, has been flat out terrible. Frank Vasner and Buck Gino and I pointed it out several months ago, or several weeks ago, probably at least a couple months ago. But the way the Tigers players, veteran or young, especially with their farm system, it just hasn't produced up to par or over. It just keeps having a tough time living up to its expectations. Their farm system is awful, and so is their scouting department. It's clear. And Don Kelly as a scout, I don't think it's nearly good enough, I may add.
I got no words for that.
No.
Has to be some type of practical joke. I wish it was, but it's not.
Yeah, I know, right? So let's move on to the last Tigers topic. Victor Martinez, according to Detroit Free Press writer Anthony Fennick, of all people, and he's got some guts, he was labeled an entitled player and a clubhouse problem. Now, this goes back to August 24th of 2017, this year. Now, get this video off of here. The Tigers' private clubhouse rift reveals itself publicly. This starts with the Victor Martinez, Justin Verlander verbal altercation following the benches clearing between the Tigers and the Yankees. During the exchange, Martinez advanced toward Verlander and was held back by third baseman Nick Castellanos. Prior to the exchange, Martinez was seen playing peacemaker with Yankees catcher Gary Sanchez. By the way, the article is headlined, "How the Detroit Tigers Built a Sinking Ship Over 4 Years." Gary Sanchez, who threw punches at both Castellanos and first baseman Miguel Cabrera during the 6-inning brawl, and right-handed relief pitcher Dylan Betances, who had just hit catcher James McCann in the head with a fastball. The situation pitted a pair of veteran players who are publicly seen as team leaders. It also illuminated a reality about Martinez, Victor that is, for the past 2 seasons. According to those inside the Tigers clubhouse, The 38-year-old designated hitter became an entitled player and a clubhouse problem whose positive influence diminished as his performance declined. When asked if he wanted to comment on this story prior to the team's August 25th game against the White Sox, Victor Martinez said, quote, "You can write whatever you want," unquote. A night later, he experienced irregular heartbeat symptoms for a second time and was placed on the 10-day disabled list. He underwent cardiac ablation surgery on September 11th and will not return this season. Martinez's exchange with Verlander came almost a year to the date of his behavior reaching a breaking point in the clubhouse in the aftermath of an August 27th loss of last year to the Angels last season in 2016. In that game, 4 Tigers were ejected for arguing balls and strikes, including Martinez. And that was at Comerica Park. I saw those 4 Tigers, including Brad Ausmus, J.D. Martinez, and Ian Kinsler, the other 3, against the Tigers. That was on FS1 of last year, August 27th, 2016. Those are all the details that you people need to know. According to multiple people with first-hand knowledge of the situation, Martinez left Comerica Park early and was nowhere to be seen when the team entered the clubhouse after the game. The people requested anonymity because they were not authorized to speak on clubhouse matters. The early departure became a talking point inside the clubhouse, and when Martinez learned of that, he singled out a teammate for leading a whisper campaign, sources said. Martinez confronted the player and they need to be separated. On August 25th, Martinez declined to answer questions about the clubhouse incident. Ausmus also declined to answer questions that day, saying, quote, "What happens in the clubhouse stays in the clubhouse for me," and quote, that unquote. And that's just another example, that quote by Ausmus, another example why Ausmus had to be fired. Better late than never, but that should have been 3 years ago. But Ausmus continued to say, "This is fine, the fire dumpster," and showed no sense of urgency whatsoever. But back to the Martinez problem. The incident is considered the point when Martinez detached himself as a leader, and the way he handled the matter did not sit well with the clubhouse, a source said. Martinez was a problem Ausmus was unable to solve, and the one front office showed no desire to solve by simply releasing him, though the topic had been raised by the coaching staff. Martinez is owed $18 million in 2018, which is next year, the final season of his 4-year deal, but with his recent medical issues and the way he left not only the clubhouse but Comerica Park in general on the rest of the team, his return is uncertain. So it's not just the medical issues, it's the way Victor Martinez behaved last year. It sums it all up. And I'm going to stop right there. And Victor Martinez bashing the fans, leaving the clubhouse on the team, leaving the park on the team, and then having health issues. It's time for Victor Martinez to go. They need to buy him out. They need to buy him out, let him retire. They need to move on.
Yeah, and then for the sake of, if anything they need an excuse to fall back on it, they can do it under the guise of looking out for his long-term health with this whole irregular heartbeat situation. So I do agree hand in hand wholeheartedly with what you just mentioned, especially with him making his, some would say, sluggish comments about fans in years past. And the whole issue with what happened that day with the Yankees brawl, it seemed to be the breaking point, the straw that broke the camel's back, basically. So, knowing that it's going to be the last year of his contract anyway next year, I would say just buy him out so that way he avoids that potential scary issue of something happening to him on the field. But knowing how this team does, they probably will ignore it and let Victor play out anyway, and then let him hang him up with a curtain call of his own choosing, so to speak. So it's no surprise why this team is in the position that they are in right now. So it's a hit or miss. I just know he will not be part of the rebuild in the near future. I would be very shocked if he's still on this team or still wants to be on any baseball team come 2019. So it's near the end, one way or another.
Yeah, this era is already over. That, especially with the fire sale. Not to mention the firing of Brad Ausmus and the Tigers, the first round pick. Those are all the 3 steps in the tanking process. Step 4, keep taking to make Chris Ilitch sell the Tigers. But Victor Martinez, he's definitely got to go. He's not. Unfortunately, as far as the fire sale was concerned, he was not a part of it. So that's going to take us from baseball to hockey. The Red Wings begin their season Thursday night at the new Little Caesars Arena against the Minnesota Wild. Then they're in Ottawa Saturday at 7, at the Dallas Stars Tuesday at 8:30. Then they go into the West Coast at the Arizona Coyotes next Thursday, the 12th, at the Vegas Golden Knights Friday the 13th, October 13th. Wow, that's scary. 10:30. The Red Wings entering the new Vegas Golden Knights Arena, T-Mobile Arena. That's the name of it. Yeah, first time the Red Wings ever entering into T-Mobile Arena to play the Vegas Golden Knights. Their first meeting against the Knights ever as well. All games are now on WWJ 950 AM in Southfield instead of 97.1 The Ticket, but they're sister stations owned and operated by CBS Detroit. So that it does make room for the Pistons on 97.1 The Ticket, but we'll get to the Pistons a little bit later on, but they're next, trust me. The Red Wings signed former Michigan State Spartan and veteran forward David Booth to a 1-year, 2-way contract. Also, Marnie Ferk making the roster of all people. And I read an article that the Red Wings are looking to the Matha, Larkin, and Ferk line for goal-scoring production. And projectedly, it would have to be the number 1 line if Ken Holland and Jet Blashill are going to turn to that line for the most offense that they can muster into the net. But as far as the defense is concerned, and we know how Jimmy Howard and Pino Mrazek, how good they are, but their defense, still a failure, even with the acquisition of Trevor Daley. He's not which I don't know how good defensively he is, but he helped the Penguins win the Stanley Cup defensively, but offensively, hasn't produced. He hadn't produced much, not only in the regular season but in the playoffs as well. That's just the truth. That's just evidence and statistics about Trevor Daley. But David Booth, a veteran forward, a former Michigan State Spartan, but doesn't matter. He his name has been around in the NHL for over a decade, for well over a decade. Just a two-way contract. The best case scenario would be for the Red Wings to send him down, but of course they're going to call him up and join the team. Because we know Ken Holland always likes to have the veterans over the younger guys on the NHL team and say this is the men's league. Kids aren't the answer. Every Red Wing fan would know that. So there you go. And just a reminder to all Red Wings fans everywhere, I'm going to play or post that video, the Detroit Red Wings decline and fall of an empire from urinating tree on YouTube on our Facebook page, the Michigan Sports Truth, as a game day post, a game day thread post. For every regular season game that the Red Wings play, whether it be at home or away, whichever team they play, they'll be known as the train wreck that became just that from a team that was once great or elite back in the early 2000s and the late 90s. So, and that was a long time ago. And even 2008, not to mention, even 2009 when they lost the Cup in Game 7 against the Pittsburgh Penguins at home in the Cup final. And that was a devastating blow to the franchise itself as a whole, its entirety, in general. So, only one team left to cover, and that is the Detroit Pistons.
Left sideline, three, and he answers.
And we're going to get to Andre Drummond's car accident injury in just a minute. But the Pistons start their preseason at Little Caesars Arena against the Charlotte Hornets Wednesday at 7. Then they're home against the Atlanta Hawks Friday at 7. They're both at Little Caesars Arena.
Yes, to see how the basketball portion of the design of the arena looks in its unofficial debut there.
Mm-hmm. They're going to have to play at least a couple of their preseason games, the first couple at least, without point guard Reggie Jackson. He's day-to-day. He hurt his thigh. But it's probably not, or definitely not going to be long. But you also got Andre Drummond, and we're going to get to that right about now. Andre Drummond got sued for a car accident injury, according to Jeff Moss, the founder and editor-in-chief of the Detroit Sports Rag. The moment we've all been waiting for. The Detroit Sports Rag has learned that Pistons center and known mental midget Andre Drummond was involved in an injury auto accident last August, which is of this month, and is currently embroiled in litigation which could potentially cause him to miss a game this coming season. He's going to miss the entire preseason. And the narrative coming out of Pistons training camp regarding Drummond's supposed maturation over the last year doesn't exactly jibe with some of the facts coming out of this lawsuit. On the afternoon of August 22nd, 2016, Drummond was operating his 2014 Mercedes-Benz S550 on Lasser Road in Bloomfield Township. The notoriously awful free throw shooter was waiting to turn left on southbound Lasser into the Bloomfield Commons parking lot, where he apparently darted out into oncoming traffic without warning and cause, according to the complaint. That's the tone setter right there. He just punched the accelerator and just stood on that thing, right into oncoming traffic. Was he trying to? I don't know. That's one part where it makes you think he's trying to join the Jackass Club. You remember the movie Jackass, the show Jackass?
Yeah, trust me.
Oh, of course you do.
That franchise.
Yeah, we both recall, at least. Most movie viewers and TV show viewers would recall back on MTV. But back to Drummond here. Because of Drummond's actions, a Tahoe traveling northbound crashed into Drummond's luxury vehicle. Oh my God. Ebony Mitchell's Chevy SUV. Yeah, the victim's name is Ebony Mitchell. His Chevy SUV T-boned the Piston Center's car. Drummond was ticketed at the scene of failure to yield by the Bloomfield Township Police Department. Interestingly, Ebony Mitchell is the wife of Northwood University defensive backs coach Avante Mitchell. Oh man, that's crossing the line a little bit. Unfortunately for Ebony, the injuries she suffered in this accident are very serious in nature, according to her attorney Kevin Green. Time to call Sam Bernstein, I guess, and she has to as well. Kevin Green, Ebony Mitchell's attorney, advised Jeff Moss on the day this article was published on DetroitSportsRag.com in a telephone conversation that Mitchell has at least 4 medical recommendations from surgeons to go under the knife for back and neck injuries she suffered in the crash. Green also advised Moss that Mitchell, who is in her late 30s or early 40s, had no pre-existing back or neck injuries before Drummond's demolition derby occurred, which is a very awful shame. And I feel for her, really. The litigation is ongoing, and Moss has been informed that Drummond continues to reject culpability for his actions in the matter. Allstate Insurance is Drummond's car insurance carrier, and Green advised Moss that they have been uncooperative as well. Shocking, I know. Actually, it is shocking that Allstate isn't cooperating with Drummond, but except for the fact that Andre Drummond was going crazy and did not show any fault whatsoever, Allstate, there's a reason why Allstate Insurance, especially the location thereof in southeast Michigan, would be really pretty pissed off at Andre Drummond and what he did, which is absolutely stupid and dangerous, like you pointed out off the air. And there's a link to the screenshot of Mitchell's complaint against Drummond by clicking here. Ebony Mitchell and Avante Mitchell. There are 8 pages here. Complaint and jury demand on page 3. Now come plaintiffs Ebony Mitchell and Avante Mitchell by and through their attorneys, and for their complaint against the above-named defendant state as follows. Number 1, at all times relevant to this lawsuit, plaintiffs Ebony Mitchell and Avante Mitchell lived in the city of Beverly Hills, county of Oakland, state of Michigan. Number 2, at all times relevant to this lawsuit, Ebony was the operator of a 2013 Chevrolet Tahoe, Michigan license plate number 0J3958, VIN 1GNSK2E06DR219514. Number 3, at all times relevant, defendant Andre Jamal Drummond, defendant, lived in the city of Bloomfield Hills, county of Oakland, state of Michigan. Number 4, Drummond was the owner and operator of a 2014 Mercedes-Benz Forget the license numbers. Number 5, the amount in controversy exceeds $25,000 exclusive of costs, interest, and attorney fees. Number 6, on Monday, August 22nd, 2016, approximately 4:44 p.m., Ebony was driving her 2013 Tahoe northbound on Lassa Road in Bloomfield Township, Michigan. Number 7, at the same time, Drummond was driving his Mercedes-Benz on the same road. Number 8, defendant turned from southbound Lassa Road, headed for the Bloomfield Commons Plaza parking lot. That's Drummond. However, he turned in front of Ebony without warning and caused a collision between Ebony and Drummond's vehicles. Ebony was severely injured. Defendant was issued a hazardous action of failure to yield and by Bloomfield Township Police Department. As a direct and proximate result of Drummond's negligence, gross negligence, and or willful and wanton misconduct, Ebony has suffered serious and permanent impairments of vital bodily functions, as well as physical and emotional injuries. Oh man, this is overly gruesome for anyone to even witness that. Count number 1, automobile negligence. Count number 2. Oh wow, hold on. Before we get to count number 2, there's a lot of information. Number 11, plaintiffs reassert and reallege the allegations contained in paragraphs 1 through 22 set forth above as if fully stated herein. Number 12, Drummond owed certain duties to the general public, but to plaintiffs in particular, to operate his vehicle in a safe and reasonable manner so as to avoid unnecessary accidents and collisions, as well as to refrain from violating traffic laws, including but not limited to speeding, failure to yield the right of way, and to stop in an assured clear distance, which is a part of being a defensive driver. Number 13, at the time of the crash, same for number 12, at the time of the crash. Number 13, at the time of the crash, defendant breached the above duties in the following manners, including but not limited. A, negligently committed a moving violation that causes serious impairment of a body function to another person. B, driving in a reckless manner in violation of MCL 257.626. C, failure to yield in violation of MCL 257.647 and MCL 257.650. D, driving in a careless and negligent manner in violation of MCL 257.626B. E, exceeding speed limits in violation of MCL 257.627 through MCL 257.633. F, failure to keep a proper lookout in violation of MCL 257.627. G, failure to stop in an assured clear distance in violation of the MCL, the same number. And H, all other acts of negligence that may be learned or discovered through the course of discovery. Number 14, as a direct and proximate result of Drummond's negligence. Yeah, that's the same thing. Ebony has suffered those injuries, including A, severe hand, wrist, and arm injuries, B, bulging and or herniation disc in the lumbar spine, C, severe nerve damage and impingement, D, injuries to the cervical spine, E, injuries to the thoracic spine, F, chronic headaches, G, physical pain and suffering, past, present, and future. H, emotional distress, past, present, and future. I, mental anguish. J, fright and shock. K, denial of social pleasure and enjoyment. L, humiliation and mortification. And finally, last but not least, M, serious impairment of body function and serious disfigurement pursuant to MCL 500.3135. All of the involvement of the surrounding muscles, tendons, ligaments, soft tissues, and nerves causing pain, discomfort, disability, emotional distress, and mental anxiety, that all the above injuries, conditions, and sequelae are permanent except those of a superficial nature. Count 4, loss of consortium, number 15. Plaintiffs reassert and reallege that the allegations contained in paragraphs 1 through 14 set forth above as if fully stated herein. And the rest you can read here. And we get to the... Oh, I'm only down to the last one. 16. Number 16, that at all times relevant hereto, the plaintiff Avante was the lawful spouse of the plaintiff Ebony, and as a direct and proximate result of the aforesaid injuries, Avante has suffered the loss of society, services, love, affection, companionship, comfort, and consortium of Ebony, and said damages will continue into the future, which is horrible. Just horrible. Wherefore, plaintiffs respectfully request that this honorable court enter a judgment in their favor and against Drummond in an amount in excess of $25,000 together with costs, interest, and attorney fees so wrongfully incurred. So this case has been designated as an e-filing case. And then you see all the information here. The matter is scheduled to go to court in early November, just days after the Pistons' regular season commences, and Drummond's attorneys have attempted to get the matter postponed until after his basketball season is over. That motion has been rejected, according to Green, which means there is potential for Drummond to miss a game, a regular season game that is, which means he'll definitely miss the entire preseason if the team is on the road while the trial is underway. That's right. Drummond can still play home games, but not road games until they get this settled. They get this case closed. This isn't the first time Drummond's driving has been newsworthy. Back in 2014, Drummond idiotically took a photograph driving on the expressway while traveling 96 miles per hour. And then the rocket scientist posted that would be Drummond, rocket scientist sarcasm right there. He posted the evidence on his Snapchat account. Morning World. Then the sun. Then you see the number 96 on a speedometer below the view of the road on the interstate. What's worse is just 25 days after causing these injuries to Mitchell, the big dope took a video of himself rapping while driving. The video below is incriminating evidence of that asinine behavior that the immature child posted on Twitter. And we're not going to infringe that video. Andre Drummond respectfully has his own copyrights. He's a public figure as a basketball player, a famous basketball player for the Pistons in society's eyes. But he literally says in that rap video that he, quote, had to cut some people off, let the pendulum swing, unquote. Yeah, you sure did cut some people off, Andre, and that pendulum seemed to swing right into Mitchell's back and neck on Lasser. Moss is guessing that tweet will soon disappear, so I have taken the liberty to record it myself. So Moss recorded himself. Those driving issues caused head coach Stan Van Gundy, also the team president, to make the following comments in 2014. Quote, I know you're young and you think you're indestructible, but for the people that care about you, it's scary as hell. I don't want to wake up and read about Andre Drummond in an accident. That's the issue to me, unquote. Well, Stan Van Gundy's nightmare just recently came true back in 2016. Well, I'm pretty sure SVG woke up one morning and discovered that Drummond's driving severely injured an innocent bystander. Moss is pretty sure. A mother who remains in pain and has surgery to look forward to in the near future, according to her attorney. It looks like we finally found something that Drummond is worse at than shooting from the charity stripe, operating a motor vehicle. The DSR will update the story when news warrants. End of article. Ed, there's got to be two ways, not less, but not more, than two ways that Andre Drummond should be punished.
That's called. It should definitely a fine, if not an outright suspension, for sure. Especially if this case goes further and further. If not, at the very least, it deserves a fine. You just can't do that because it could have ended in a lot worse situation. It reminds me of a little bit of John Jones in 2015, where he committed a hit and run after literally fleeing the scene of a crime as well. And his situation was much worse because he actually injured this woman who was pregnant. So, he very easily could have had an Andre Drummond, and this could have gotten much bigger play. But even still, this is just something that just cannot be passed aside or swept underneath the rug.
No, absolutely not. But for the type of punishments, exact type of punishments with the team and legally, well, that's going to be our our fifth and final question. And speaking of 5 questions, let's get to them right now. Let's not waste any time.
No problem.
It's time for 5 questions on the Michigan Sports Truth.
Question number 1, how can the Lions offense improve?
It's simple. Settle for more, finish your drives with more touchdowns. Do not settle for field goals. And in terms of trying to force the run, implement your comfort zone first and then mix in the running game. Don't force down the run, mix in the run.
2 good points right there.
Next question.
Especially with Amir Abdullah. Question number 2, did Lions owner Martha Ford address the national anthem issue properly?
She addressed it, yes, properly. Depending on which audience you talk to, you probably get 2 different answers. For my money, her comments were misguided, definitely misguided, and I'm not accusing her of any racism or any of that. It's just her reaction to this seems to be misguided in a sense. So I think she definitely could have handled or answered the situation a little bit better.
That's all it was.
Next question.
Question number 3. Here's a big one. What appears to be the best unit matchup between the Wolverines and the Spartans?
Simple. MSU O-line versus Michigan's defensive line. I saw some instances against Iowa where MSU, because they got a little bit jumpy, whether there was a sequence on the field goal attempt where they got 1 or 2 back-to-back false start penalties that pushed them out of field goal range or as close to out of it as possible. I can see that coming into play because remember, you're going to get some real good caliber of defensive linemen here. Mo Hurst, Rashawn Gary, and not to mention the linebacking crew. I've already talked about Devin Bush to death, but there's other guys like Mike McCray and even Chase Winovich, for example, as well. They could provide big problems on that. So I expect Don Brown to dial up the pressure early and often. And really try to set a tone and show MSU who's boss. So that's what I anticipate happening.
I'm thinking kind of the same thing, except I'm going to go with Michigan's defensive front against Brian Lewerke. Brian Lewerke can put the moves on any defensive front and turn on the Jets and go for big yardage. But for Michigan's defensive front, they can form a wall and they can bring the house down on any quarterback and bring the blitz too. They can run the blitz well too. Don't get me wrong. I'm going to see what happens between U of M's defensive front and Brian Lewerke. I know MSU's offense has had trouble with the false start penalties, but that's a matchup you're looking forward to as well. I think those are two good matchups that we're both looking forward to individually.
Next question.
Question number 4, who can the Tigers possibly hire as their next manager? If they were not smart, they would hire either Dave Clark or Freddie Gonzalez. But if they were to be smarter, at the very least, they would hire either Dino Ebel or Joe McEwing or Manny Acta or Alex and Joey Core if they were even smarter than that. Or Phil Nevin. I'm not sure what Phil Nevin can bring in the table, but...
to be honest, I would not be surprised to see them go in club, which very likely could mean Lloyd McClendon or Omar Pascal. If you were to ask me who I think might be right there on 2018 next year, it'll probably be, I'll say Pascal. I'll take a shot and say Pascal. That's just my money.
All right. See how smart he is. I have. Keep in mind, I have doubts on Vizquel too. But Frank Vashner points out that Omar Vizquel may be good enough to be a Tiger manager.
Next question.
Finally, question number 5: what punishments should Pistons center Andre Drummond receive from the team and the league, the NBA, and legally for his car crash with Ebony Mitchell?
Well, the only reason he's not receiving any kind of punishment is because it's not being brought out more public to the light. I think hopefully this report from the DSR will get the ball rolling on that and help kickstart that. It should at least, in my view, result in a fine, if not an outright fine and suspension, but at the very least a fine for the action committed. Now, what he did, to me, that warrants a suspension no matter what, because she could have gotten hurt a lot worse than what she is now, if not worse than that.
Yeah, it would be a fine legally by the police department for the crash, and a suspension by the league, by the National Basketball Association, but for just one game, no more than that, but just one game, just to be fair. So that wraps up our 5-question segment, and to our entire audience, if you want to answer those 5 questions, just replay that segment portion of this episode and answer them the best you can without going out of line. Now for the other segment. What's your grade?
Pencils down, everyone. It's time to find out what's your grade.
The Tigers hiring Don Kelly as a scout. I would grade it an F especially because Don Kelly's not smart, and he has no experience as a scout, and a bad, not terrible, but still bad player throughout his Tigers tenure as a ball player.
I'm giving it a D. The only reason I'm not giving it an F is because no matter what, the fans like Kelly. There's a portion of fans that are going to love Don Kelly no matter what. So this is appealing to their senses. So this one, since it's not a universally hated move, I can't give it an F. As much as I want to, I can't.
Just because the fans like Donnie Kelly, baby?
Oh, yeah. Please. No, trust me. Do not doubt that fan base, that portion of the fan base, I should say.
They're a bunch of slapdicks. I have to go with an F. I can't. I see nothing coming out of Don Kelly ever, or as a scout. He's just one of the Tigers' homeboys, which is just a homer thing to do. It has nothing to do with brains. This is a focus we're talking about here. Business comes ahead of personal interest, and you got to do your job. You need to have more. Not only need to have more experience, you need more smarts than that. So sorry, but what the fans want doesn't matter. What the slapdick fans want, Donnie Kelly baby, doesn't mean shit. Sorry, but number 2, the Tigers signing Pedro Martinez Jr. That's a tough one.
I'm going to say a C because you don't know what the long-term production or long-term result of this move will be. You got to see how he does on the field before we jump to any type of conclusion. So you go middle of the road and start from there, and I'm going with a straight down the middle C.
And finally, the Red Wings roster at its entirety heading into the 2017-2018 regular season in the NHL. Marty Ferk, let me start out. Made the roster. Gonna join Dylan Larkin and Anthony Mantha to form a line. They have to be number 1 if the Red Wings were to turn to more offense. But I'm gonna give that a D-. They still can't find. They're still not going to find ways to win many games, and they're probably going to be as bad, if not worse, than last season. They still got the same players, except they also have Trevor Daley, Jonathan Erickson, Nick Cronwall, Justin Advocator, Danny DeKeyser, Darren Helm, Henrik Zetterberg, etc.
I'll keep this simple. They've made no marks to improve their defenseman issues. They have albatrosses of contracts.
Not to mention Dave Booth, another veteran.
The amount of talent that they have. Yeah, I know, but it's not going to make a difference. This is going to be a terrible team. And Andreas Anthony might still fuck off to Russia. So,
according to Urinating Tree, yep.
Yeah, so it's easy. F.
Yep, I'd have to agree with yours. Although I have my grade, I have to agree with yours. So that's our What's Your Grade segment. So for our audience, if they have grades for each event, post them on the comment bank in this episode. Please don't go out of line. So that's episode 284 of the Week in Review on Spreaker, iCloud, iHeartRadio, and SoundCloud. Hell of a 2-hour show there.
It was a barn burner.
Yeah. Before we sign off, we want to remind everyone to share this episode and our entire podcast on social media and have their friends share that as well, because we want to tell them that the Michigan Sports Truth Podcast organization is boosting its posts of each and every episode from Spreaker on its Facebook page and searching for local advertising sponsors. If anyone has a business that's interested in sponsoring this program, send our Facebook page a message. Ed, extra hard work done by us both. A hell of a job. The Michigan MSU's matchup, the Lions and the Vikings, and the Andre Drummond shit. So we'll talk again on episode 285 for another jam-packed episode.
Absolutely. Looking forward to it.
All right. So for Ed Smith, I'm Taylor Phillips. Follow me on Twitter at DT2Phillips and Ed Smith at EdSmith313. Like and share the Michigan Sports Truth Facebook page and join its Facebook group. We'll talk to you next week on episode 285. Thanks very much for listening, downloading, and sharing TTFN. Ta-ta for now.
Don't mess with Pete.